very good afternoon to one and all. Hope you are enjoying the session today. Now I would like to introduce you Dr. Karnam Gaurinath. He did MBBS in MD in respiratory diseases from SVM Tirupati and worked as senior resident in JIPMER, Pondicherry. He also worked as assistant professor in SRMC, Chennai, and worked as a professor and HOD in KMC. He worked in Manipal for 9 years and in Narayana Medical College, Nellore for 3 years, and joined Apollo Hospital as consultant in July 2014. He had 73 scientific publications, including 12 internationals. He did phase 2, 3, and 4 international and national clinical drug trials since 2003. So now, I'd like to invite Dr. Gaurinath sir to take over the session. So kindly put your hands together to welcome Dr. Karnam Gaurinath sir. I'd like to invite CEO ma'am of CEO of CAVAXIA Clinical Research, Karishma Rampilla, and Co-Executive Director, Mr. Pavan Kumar, to come over the dais to appreciate Dr. Gaurinath with a token of appreciation.
Good afternoon to everybody. Good afternoon to everybody, and thanks for the opportunity. My what is that called role as principal investigator in studies which were conducted by me, my experience, and a word of caution about a clinical drug trial. Principal investigator is the most important person of a clinical drug trial or project. That is, he is responsible for the conduct of drug trial right from the securing the required approvals, screening the patients, and making the patient participate, and anything that happens during the drug trial or anything that is required during the drug trial, he is supposed to be the person carrying out those tasks. And a principal investigator is usually a doctor, because any clinical drug trial or anything that involves a drug use, it is always best to have a doctor. And how the principal investigator is selected? A principal investigator is selected based upon his qualification and experience. So when I was selected as a principal investigator in 2003 by Ranbaxy company for a phase 2 trial involving a drug on asthmatics. That was a risky job, because this was phase 2. Can anybody tell what is phase 1? Phase 1 clinical drug trial is conducted on experimental animals. Not many people know that at least 4 experimental animals they use this drug before being clearing for the volunteers. And once the volunteers, that is without any disease, the phase 2 comes. Phase 2 is mainly safety, not efficacy. And once the phase 2 safety is established, then safety and efficacy phase 3 will come. Phase 4 is post marketing, that is already approved and so already approved and in the market. Still the regulating authorities of each country 100, that is 600, 700, 800 subjects to get the drugs free and to test its efficacy again. So in that way, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 trials are very much conducted depending upon the introduction of new drugs, depending upon the introduction of new devices. And first trial was asthma, second trial was COPD, and again asthma. Like that I used to get 2 drug trials to 3 drug trials per year. And all those drug trials, when you are invited to show your interest in the drug trial, you have to sign an agreement. Once the agreement is signed, then the documents will be delivered to your department. That includes the drug proposals, they call it protocol, clinical trial protocol, that includes everything about their what is that called, the proposal and the reason, and the consent forms in different languages, that is local languages also. So you have to get the ethics committee approval, and that ethics committee should be a registered ethics committee. Those days the ethics committee registration was not mandatory, but now it is mandatory. So once the ethics committee approves, then there will be site initiation visit. The sponsor will come and he will inspect the site, saying that there is adequate space for storing the drugs, and there is adequate space for patients, and there is adequate facilities for managing these adverse events, including severe adverse events like ICU, and there is adequate devices that is already internationally accredited. For example, a spirometry, people call PFT machine. Any PFT machine where daily calibration is done and recorded, followed by testing the patients, is recognized or approved. Otherwise, any PFT which gives only the best result without any calibration requirement is not approved. So in that way, even the device they have and the study personnel, that is the team, principal investigator only will select the team, and that selection is based upon their qualification and eligibility. Even the PFT technician, the certificate is important. For a MD degree holder, it is not required because already he had training during his tenure. But a MD degree holder, the PFT is not very big thing, and it is usually done by a technician. So you must have a technician who is having the qualification that is recognized. So all these things people are very much having the problem. So they call a meeting of investigators, sub-investigators, coordinators, technicians in a particular place. So my first meeting was in Bombay. So they conduct all training programs, that includes ICH GCP certificate, that is you are trained for that, and your competence as a lab technician, that is the spirometry technician in our department, is verified, checked, and certificate is given. Then only you can conduct. Then how will you start the study? You do your routine work as a consultant. During the period, you see cases of asthma or COPD or pneumonia or bronchiectasis or any other lung disease, and see the eligibility criteria, inclusion criteria, and see the exclusion criteria, and select them. Once you select them, you offer them the opportunity to participate in the drug trial. Once you give complete information in their language to their satisfaction, then the actual process will start. He will sign the informed consent form with a witness, and then he will have the screening period of 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, and after stopping the drugs and after giving any other drugs as a rescue medication, particularly for asthma only salbutamol is given, you stop other drugs. If he does not have any deterioration or change, then on randomization you conduct again the spirometry and all blood investigations and required cardiac workup and all, and then give him the investigational drug or placebo, because we don't know which we are giving. So he will keep on coming as instructed, and the period is only 3 days. Within 3 days he has to come. So this will be for 12 weeks, 16 weeks, sometimes 6 months. And whenever he comes, the documentation in the source document, that is hospital file, case sheets, what you daily write, they should be written properly, they should be written as per guidelines, and then this should be transferred to the sponsor's CRF, that is a case record file. This will be done by a junior person, usually a study coordinator, who holds MBBS degree or not even MBBS degree, even a pharmacological and all. But whatever he does, we have to sign below that I have checked and it is okay. In that way the drug trial continues, and the principal investigator will remain active and responsible and keeps on communicating or keeps on answering till the drug trial is over. After the drug trial is over, site closing visit, the sponsor will come, he will see all and he will check all records and then bind them and put them in a bureau and close it. That's all. But in the middle, whatever subjects you have selected, you must see that they complete the clinical drug trial as expected. That is called, I say 6 visits, they have to come 6 visits. If they don't want to come, it is their liberty. That is, the principal investigator cannot influence any participant in any way. He is responsible for the safety and welfare and rights. Patients should be made aware of their rights, and patients should be having that safety. How safety? There was a patient who came with fever. The clinical drug trial was on bronchiectasis, and the efficacy of nebulized amikacin was being tested. Patient came in the morning with fever, and we tested amikacin, and patient was not satisfied. Patient said, see, this amikacin is not giving me any relief. My fever is not gone. So paracetamol was given. That itself is a deviation from the protocol. One deviation allowed. But evening what happened? She said, sir, I am not having the same effect. So removed. Patient just got herself excluded from the study. And that bronchiectasis, how it was proved? It It was proved through HRCT. It was proved through that pseudomonas. Only those who grew pseudomonas within 12 months are eligible. How many are conducting the sputum cultures regularly? We used to conduct, that came as a bonus for us. Like that, patient can always withdraw, and when patient withdraws, we have to write the reason. And if patient says no reason, no reason. And another problem we faced with phase 4, that is, phase 4 is not very strong because the monitoring is not very much stringent. We give the drugs and ask them to take and come back. In Narayana Medical College, I did the efficacy of levocetirizine with or without montelukast. That is a phase 4 study only, because the montelukast plus levocetirizine was already approved, and separate levocetirizine already. What actually happens is, when you give the number, say 10 tablets or 14 tablets, they have to return the foil, empty foil. Are you taking the drug? How to know that? So there are some studies where the urine cortisol levels are seen when you are giving the steroids, that is topical steroids. You are not allowed to take oral steroids, but you take oral steroids and say I did not take, then that steroid, that urine will. So in that way, the checking was very much part of drug trial, and all these are done only by a dedicated person who knows that all these are important. If all these are not there, simply you get the consent and give some tablets, and if patient lands up in any problem, that is, even if he gets road accident, you are responsible. Principal investigator alone is responsible. He has to document, and he has to get the proof that patient has fallen on his own, not because of the drug. That is called IP, investigational product. So in that way, things are very much revolving around presence of mind, documentation, constant vigil, and supervision. And you people, as a postgraduates, can always be a study coordinator. Once you get your degree as assistant professor, you can be a principal investigator, depending upon your training. Today is the training that is mandatory. If you want to conduct a drug trial as a private practitioner, as a consultant, or a faculty in a medical college, you have to have the training of ICH GCP. So that already people have done that. And regarding my experience, the things will be very smooth as long as everything is very much, what is that called, without any complaints. If any complaint comes, or if any adverse event comes, then you have to be vigilant in such a way that you will be on the same issue 24 hours. For example, if somebody dies, you must know that he died, because he is not in your department, he is in his house. So there must be daily communication to and fro. Either their relatives should communicate to us, or we should ask. So if a person dies, unrelated or related, you have to inform the sponsorer, ethics committee, and next day. Is it possible? It is possible, provided you are very much having a dedicated team, and the what is that called as subjects. If the subject is dedicated, then he will be very much having the confidence and the faith. Another study where a female underwent pubectomy, and she came out and she was roaming around. After 12 weeks she came. When she came, the study coordinator wrote that patient underwent tubectomy, say 2 months back or 3 months back. So that is a deviation. That is not proper conduct of clinical drug trial, because in the protocol itself it is written, whatever you have to do, you have to document, and if you have done a tubectomy, you should inform or we should know that. So there was a problem, and that problem was recognized and solved because patient did not tell. That's what we write. But if patient says I don't know, then it is okay. But if we say why we have not informed or we did not get the information, there is no excuse. So in this way all clinical drug trials are one-sided only. The other side only, if they cooperate, you get positive result, otherwise it will be. The subject was excluded, even though it was very beneficial. You see the what is that called, breath activated inhalers, you see the nebulized drugs, they are very good. If somebody gets included, it is very much beneficial to them. A-formoterol, now only it has come, previously it was not there, 2005 or 6. But when that nebulizer was given, patient was very happy. And this ipratropium bromide, tiotropium bromide, all those days it was not there. So only with conduct of clinical drug trials only you get the what is that called, result, and the investigator meet will be held, and again post study investigator meet will be held, and different study sites they analyze and have a international presentation. In 2005 or 6, our site was third highest what is that called, in terms of subjects. We finished more than 50. So I was asked to present the paper in Norway, Oslo. The sponsor is there, their medical officer will be there, everybody is there. But the principal investigator group, whoever conducts highest, their name will be first. Or if a clinical what is that called, a drug trial is conducted without any problem, as I said, any adverse events and all, then they like that. Whatever is done, it is done in a systematic way and published. The research results will be published with authors, principal investigators, in the order of their number. And this is how the clinical drug trials are very much conducted. So to summarize, you get the proposal, you sign, that is called agreement. Once feasibility, then agreement, then the sponsor will come and he will inspect whole department or the area where the clinical drug trial is going to be conducted. You will see the equipment, you will see the space, and you will say that okay, this site is having adequate facilities and staff. After that, the principal investigator will have the screening. Before that, documentation of informed consent. After screening, see any screening failures are there. If there are no screening failures, randomization. After randomization, every visit, the required testing and the IP dispensing is done. And at the end of the trial, he will just finish off the documentation, and the sponsor will have one CRA. He will come periodically and check the progress of clinical drug trial. This is a process in brief. So any questions? No, actually, as per Helsinki, the patient cannot be given any incentive. I asked for that and they said it is not possible. Then I said, when the patient is coming with his own money being spent, that is not acceptable. So transport and food I arranged. For that I used to give them 300 rupees per visit. That was way back in 2006. And giving incentives, gifts or any other form of benefit is unethical and not allowed. No, no, no. See, what I said now, a nebulized drug, a formoterol, was introduced by Cipla, and it was very good. Patient got benefited. Once patient got benefited, he came and asked, sir, the trial is over and now you are not giving. That is not possible. Because once the trial is over, once the results are submitted to DGCA, and once approval is obtained and the product is introduced into market, only you will get. Yes. No, they have to not buy. They have to wait. See, their role as a participant is only voluntary, and their role as a study subject is of their own decision, based upon our explanation. But the study grant is given to the principal investigator and his team for his effort and for his risk. And that is, say, I said bronchiectasis. One study patient, the investigator received 1.25 lakhs. And for a COPD patient, one patient, the investigator received 30,000. No, it's a grant. For conducting a drug trial, you will get that much benefit. And that is distributed among the study members as by principal investigator choice, not any. So some institutions have the rule that principal investigator will get 70% and sub investigator will get 30%. Study coordinator will get 50,000 per month, like that. They have their own. So in KMC Manipal, Acunova was the what is that called, like what these people, and they used to conduct. They get the trial and select the investigator, and that investigator will conduct the trial. Everything is done as per protocol, and everything is very much supervised well. But that type of situations are not there in many medical colleges. So you have, the principal investigator has to do all those. And this I did in Narayana, where there was no CRA here, and outside Narayana also, and there was no problem. But the problem comes if you omit or commit and you don't inform. That will be terrible problem, and that is not acceptable. That's why before you accept any drug trial proposal, you have to be 100% sure that you have adequate knowledge, experience, and the required staff. Required staff means those who can conduct the test competent. Many PFTs, the testing was not done properly. Then it's a waste, because that will not be accepted. A PFT result should be acceptable. Once it is acceptable, only the result will be analyzed. So in that way. No, one patient died. That's what I was talking to people. One patient died due to acute coronary syndrome. He did not die of what tablet I gave. I gave only Sebditorin, third generation oral cephalosporin. But after death, so many queries, so many papers I have to fill up. Finally, I have to prove that this is a 3-vessel disease as per coronary angiogram done in the ICU on emergency basis, and not a single rupee was charged from the patient. Everything was by the sponsoring company. And another person who took the inhaler and he got stroke. He was taking inhaler for 4 years. COPD, I gave the inhaler, and this he was taking for one week or 10 days, and his stroke was because of his hypertension. He did not take that because permitted drugs are there. You cannot stop the drugs which are essential, anti-diabetic or these only inhaled drugs, so that was not stopped. But still he got the stroke. Once he got the stroke, got admitted, and everything was monitored, all money paid, and compensation also is there. If patient dies, because at the time of inclusion, the insurance is there. Insurance is there. Otherwise, it is very much inhuman to. So. No, no, no. What actually happens is, many rural people, they think that they have taken drug and they are all right. And other things are only not related to the, why I should inform that I had herniorrhaphy or tubectomy. Despite all explanation, there the study coordinator is very important. They have to keep on asking, they have to keep on giving information through phone, and that is important. Whatever they may do, the principal investigator has to answer. If he dies in the house, there will be a lot of questions, and why postmortem was not done. If postmortem was not done as the attendants are not willing, that has to be documented, and their signatures have to be taken. And all these are very much there. You cannot escape responsibility just because he is not there. Sometimes people write lost, did not come for randomization, visit, say after first visit, second visit. That you, but you must write that day. If he does not turn up, you can write. But he turned up and died in the middle means you have to answer.
So how could you manage the dual role of being a clinician and a researcher?
No, no, no. See, I am a clinician first, second, last. This clinical drug trial is only additional responsibility. And I don't see the clinical drug trial separately. The person who is having COPD is a COPD patient only.
So
But
was there no paternal influence in that case? Because you are a treating clinician, like you have a lot of faith in humanity.
no, no, no. Because of the faith only, I was able to finish the clinical drug trial as per expectation and exceeded expectation. You must have patient number. You must have the number, and you must have people who are very much believing what you say. And you should be a, what is that called, a protector of them. See, the fellow who died took the tablet blindly. He said, no, 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 come on, why signal, I'll sign. He took it. He is a COPD patient, admitted, and he was all right till the acute coronary syndrome after 4 hours. But this drug has no, because he had got pre-existing lung disease. But still the sponsor asked, why you selected that patient? You only wrote in principal investigator opinion is fit, you can give it. It's a trial. That is phase 4. Phase 4 is not very strict, but still all this will come. And the patient's brother admitted that you only saved my father 4 years back, now this time he is not lucky. But not lucky means when unrelated and whatever which is beyond our thing, it is because a 3-vessel disease with 90% occlusion without being investigated in the past, it is not possible.
All the data management and all who used to do.
No, data management is done by a study coordinator.
Used to.
I always select a pharmacologist. That is in KMC, a department of pharmacology or pharmacy, that professor, I will ask them to recruit a person who is very much interested. So he or she will come in the morning and check all these things, sit in one room and see the completeness of documentation, and that completeness of documentation with source document, which I write. See, when the patient comes, I write everything. His breathlessness is improved and his cough is still persisting. If he is persisting, whether it is dry or productive, everything I write, including the vital data and findings that she will transfer. So way there is no extra pressure, provided you do your work properly. That's what I was telling. A case sheet, how many are writing the complaints, how many are elaborating the complaints, how many are writing the essential vital functions, that is bowels and micturition are normal, appetite is normal. When you are not writing that, then the problem will come. You must write complaints, present illness, previous illness, medication history, personal history, family history, socio-occupational history, general examination, all. You must write how the patient is appearing, whether he is walking or he came limping, gait. You must write his nutrition. You must write his body mass index. You must record his weight, height, BP, pulse rate, respiratory rate. Are you doing? If you are not doing that, then you will be in trouble. If you are doing that, you have no problem to worry, because everything will be as per documentation, as per source document, and nobody can do anything against you. I never faced any problem, because whatever problem I anticipate, I do the remedial work in the beginning itself. This acute coronary syndrome, nobody knows. See, if you walk and fall on the ground, that is also principal investigator is accountable. But you can always write. Till he is out of the college, he was walking. Then he fell down. Why he fell down and all, you investigate and give him proper treatment, and then make a report. Yes. See, during the informed consent process, there is one column where the sponsor will take responsibility for treatment, and the principal investigator will take proper responsibility for recognition and giving proper treatment in a timely manner. You get Stevens-Johnson syndrome today and I come and see next day is not acceptable. You must admit him in ICU, you must start all treatment, that treatment is as per the diagnosis, and the diagnosis should be correct. All these happen only in medical colleges, because all departments are under one roof. If you are not in a medical college, you have to have a person, transport, and hospital. But that is risky. The ethics committee will not give approval. If you say, I want to have a cardiologist 10 kilometers away or a dermatologist 20 kilometers away, all under one roof only, and the person who comes on behalf of the sponsoring company will check all these things. And you must give the clinical drug trial team names with their biodata, including yours. And this biodata they check. And once they are satisfied only otherwise they will say, why you selected this person. So things are very much stringent, and it is not possible to overlook. And I heard that people takes what is that called, informed consent, never give the drugs, but they say drugs were given, patient is all right. All these are bit difficult. In a medical college it is very difficult, because it is a multidisciplinary and what is that called, areas. You might have written that patient came at 8 o'clock, but patient would have gone to laboratory at 10 o'clock only. So there the time is different. That also they check. And many times the blood has to be drawn and sent to the central laboratory in Mumbai. Yes, there will be dry ice, there will be a box, you put that in the dry ice and send it. Special investigations like serum cortisol levels, and that and all you have to do in time. If you have to do that in time, you have to have a person dedicated for that work. So that is. See, they come on their own. They will inform you and they make arrangements and come, and the study coordinator will sit with them. Each page they will examine, and then if anything they will ask, then they will ask for note to file or file note, You have to write why this is not done in that time. Reason you have to write. In that way, amendments are allowed. Once amendments are done, they have to be informed to the ethical committee. And finally, they say close. The investigation is closed because the time is over or the recruitment number is reached. Sometimes if you reach the recruitment number quickly, then they will give 10 more. They give 10 more because once I was asked to have at least 10 subjects. I finished 16. Then they said, well, you finished 16, so take 10 more. See, if you have more subjects, you get more money. But more effort and more...
All the records at the end of the study they taken.
No. All the records will be stored in the institution. Previously it was 5 years, now 15 years. See, I did one study in 2012. Just after leaving Narayana Medical College, I did one study. I was in Vijaya Super Specialty Hospital, Pogatota. I finished and everything done and over. In 2020, somebody from Poland raised, what is that called, query to the Glenmark company, who was the sponsor. So he came. But those hospital, people are not knowing all those things. What they did, this dedicated bureaus, they thought that so many bureaus, why you are keeping, and all they have bundled up and thrown in one bureau, and all three bureaus they were using for other work. When he came only 1 or 2 hours notice. Nobody was there because study team all left. Only I was there. I was there not in that hospital. I was in Apollo Hospital. So I rushed to the hospital and that bundled up that sealed thing, I gave it, and I cannot open because the drug, what is that called, sponsor representative came. He opened it and took the photograph and sent it to the person, and he was satisfied. So this is one more danger. If you are unable to store the documents for the period of time that is already prescribed at the time of agreement, you are in deep trouble. You cannot say I burnt it or somebody took it. All those things are difficult. This happened before. What actually happens is double blind study. Double blind open and double blind closed. Double blind closed, nobody knows. If any complaint comes, as she said, any severe adverse event or even mild adverse event, that is opened not by the principal investigator. The person has to come and he will see, and that is only a code. That code will go there and they will again have their own code and then say this is not drug. If it is drug, they say it is drug. So principal investigator will never know what is there inside because it is double blind. If it is open, I said Septitorin, this is Septitorin tablet, you take it, and that is there. No, actually, any complaint that comes only after consuming the drug. Once the drug is consumed, if patient says, I got this only after taking this drug, then you will inform the ethics committee and the sponsor. Sponsor will take action and you will see that what drug was given based upon the number. You allot a number to each and every and initial. So you send that and they will give the answer. Huge. Only thing is you are not doing. See, if the swimming pool is there, if you are standing outside and say what is the chances of learning swimming, that is wrong. There is huge opportunity and medical colleges are recognized as the best sites for conducting any clinical drug trials, because you have got forensic medicine, you have got microbiology, you have got pathology, you have got hematology, you have got everything. So you need not send anything to anybody. But the clinical trial where I conducted the hospital, nothing. There was nothing. So I have to draw the blood, send it to Mumbai. Only PFT technician was with me, because I know PFT and I have a research grade PFT machine. So that only I did. Other things only transport. But that is not required here. You can do anything and everything. General medicine has huge advantage. Respiratory medicine, only respiratory. But only thing is the sponsorer has to recognize. Sponsorer has to have the faith in the site, and sponsor has to have all information. Anything more? I left patients, so I came in the middle, because I thought it's only 1:30 to 2:30. Now it's already 3. So thank you. Thanks for the.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving your insight with your experience. I think we have learned and we came to know so many things that we only assumed. But now you have given us, I think, not to take anything for granted, especially not to assume things or presume things also. So you have it on paper, you read it, and then you put it on paper also. So that's, I mean, I am trying to translate what sir was saying in clinical, with regard to clinical trials over here. But the translation over here for you all is any documentation, any patient that you see, you need to document, you need to put it down. Like sir said, even the basic, from the demographic requirements that are there, they have to be entered. So that only makes, makes a proper document which can be used later on down the line. So whatever we do today, it's for the coming generations, where they can use that information that you have recorded today. If it is correct, then it is going to be useful, and the potential is large, like sir said. It's not that we stand over here and say that nothing is happening. If all of us want it to happen, we can make it happen only if we get into the water. Okay? So thank you, sir, for that insight.
So, thank you so much, Dr. Gaurinath sir, for coming and accepting my invitation quickly. You know how quick he accepted. The way he delivered is also so quick. The entire journey of what he had. It's not like entirely relevant only to the BDS domain or entirely relevant to the pulmonology area he was working on. He was speaking on behalf of an investigator, what challenges he faced, an entire field of importance of clinical research, what he handled. And I was seriously like, every step, what was he talking about, I know what a part of me experienced it in, right from the patient recruitment, right from writing a safety, right from making up a feasibility, right from making up the budget. He was talking about 1 lakh grant, compensation, safety part of it. I worked all through that journey. So see, he was a person at the presence of hospital. He had his exposure. I'm a person who exposed to the industry, you know. So, but together, clubbed, everybody's having the same knowledge. True? So what do we like? Thing is that quality information is important in the clinical trials. Quality documentation is important. So he was saying, so was say, extending to say more importance on archiving a documentation part, right? So where that is, every sponsor will spend separate budget to the, again, make sure that particular documents would be safe and there's no theft occur. And I've seen also during my journey, one of the principal investigator, he was actually moving on from one hospital to the other hospital with a location shift actually. So he missed few of the patient's documents. You know what? That was a closeout time of a clinical trial actually, and the sponsor was trying to get back to collect all the source information from the doctor, and he was not able to produce it properly because he missed one of the carton during he was traveling from one location to the other. The entire doctor's work was entirely lost, you know. He was not considered at the end of the result of clinical trial. His data was not considered. That's how it reflects. So one single mistake, if a doctor does, it will be reflecting to many things. It's not a mistake actually, it's a protocol, it's a guideline what we follow. That is the importance of ICH GCP guidelines. So we have ICMR guidelines, we have Schedule Y, we have CITES guidelines. Every country has their own local regulations to be followed. Apart from the global regulations, which is nothing but ICH GCP. So that's it. I'm so happy. So thank you so much for accepting it, sir. And I'm sure like he was missing so many patients. Even in the emergency, he was here with the patients. So because that's all, like, we are here to learn new things, right? So I would like you to grab to take you to my content, what I was trying to deliver today. Thank you so much, sir. Sirish, can you help me? That's another system they connected and I'm not getting. They connected to the other system and my system was not actually connected to the monitor. So last but not the least, I am grabbing last 1.5 more hour to make you learn hands-on experience on how to develop your own site. Shall I go ahead? No. No, okay. Okay, let's make it something entertainment then. Let's try to make it like an activity. Shall we do that? Shall we do that? Let's make it then. So do you have your own mobile phones, right? You have your mobile phones. So make sure it's charged, okay? I'm going to take you to platform. Have you been through our 2 days session? You're there, right? How many use Mentimeter over there? Great. How many completed ICH GCP? One of the challenging tasks was already done. Who is that? So it's a mandatory part, as we had seen sir also speaking about the importance of ICH GCP being a principal investigator. So that is a mandatory. I got a call from one of the postgraduate. I did not remember her name, saying that she just did and she was so happy that she had completed ICH GCP after our workshop. And she was asking me that there was an expiry date. Should I move ahead again? Should I continue taking up the same email ID and password usage? Oh my God, thank you. Okay, so happy to meet you, ma'am. So yes, that's the thing. Once you are certified, that is an expiry license you had also for ICH GCP, and we will be using it again back during the time. Okay. Screen is not visible. So I'll just continue with this. So there's a small technical issue going. So by then I just want to engage with you students. So by then you are trying to learn about the responsibilities of the investigator, right? Right from the day one, whoever is talking to you from North, from Australia, from Canada, the speakers, the guests were with us talking more on the investigator, and few talked on academic initiated clinical trials also yesterday. So what is that you are learning? Entire the key responsibilities of the principal investigator. I think you had seen the live experience of Gaurinath sir also talking on the same. What is that? I am a first person responsible for every part of it, right from motivating the patient till recruiting the patient, documentation of it, archival of the documentation. Also, I am a responsible person, right? You had seen the experience how he had rushed out to the hospital bag even though he was left out from the organization, right? So, keeping that all the responsibilities in mind, let me move on to take you to an example of what is the difference between we being as an investigator or we being as a co-investigator. What will help more? Who is a co-investigator? Co-investigator is also a doctor who is having the same graduations or same academic degrees or same relevant field, but who would be helping on behalf of the investigator who is having authority in his hands to take care of a clinical trial. You had seen that without his presence, there is no notice of a patient to deliver the drug also, right? Right? So what if he was busy, he was in a surgery or he was something busy in his OP meetings? So then comes a picture of the co-investigator also having an idea of taking care of the direct protocol what the investigator follows. A site which is having a good quality team is something they have one investigator, one co-investigator, 2 to 3 CRCs in their hand, bioanalytical team who having medical degrees or MSc degrees in chemistry, like they collect the samples, accredited lab, okay, ethics committee members supporting them at this site, and also the one who will help to transport the patient, like from the patient premises to the hospital, or after taking the drug from the hospital to the patient premises. Like the drop-in people also would be important. Courier, shipment, the investigated product, that is also important. The sponsor would be in another country and he would be sending the drug for the doctor here in India. What he does, like which platform, how would he clear all the customs of it? That is also one part of education and clinical research. So the doctor will clear all the customs, taking up all the approvals only would be eligible to take up a clinical trial. So is it the responsibility of the sponsor or a doctor then to bring the drugs into the site? Sponsor. The sponsor will take care of it. But what is the responsibility of investigator when there's a death sheet of the investigational product at the site? He is a person who will be reporting to the IVRS or IWRS systems, Internet Voice Response Systems or Web Response Systems we call it as, where they'll be having the investigator to be notified when there's a drug lack or the drug patient about to close it with the having it in the site premises. So then it will be automatically generated from the sponsors and the customs get cleared and the drug will be shipped to the site. What is then the responsibility of a doctor? He should take care to store the drug at a very such facility which is written in a clinical trial protocol of that drug. If something misses out, when a CRA comes for monitoring at the site, every 5 stars, like we call it as stars for monitoring. When does a CRA come to the site for monitoring? For every 5 patients the doctor recruits, definitely the CRA should be coming to the monitoring activities. He is a person who will look at overall site facility first and then goes with the patient recruitment, see the missed dosages happening or look at the safety of the patient. Everything, but he is not having a right to speak directly with the patient. That's the first thing. Only the investigator will be having right to interact with the patient. Second is the nurses will be having direct connection to the patient during the treatment of the safety events. So that is the only I said GSP guideline we should follow. CRA would be coming to monitoring, looking at the thing, and every document where the doctor shows, he will be having a written signature electronically also. For that also we have a guideline which is nothing but 21 CFR Part 11. If you see ICGCP guidelines, if you see Schedule Y guidelines, Code of Federal Regulation guidelines, you will understand the importance of electronic signature of the investigator also. I think Sir missed talking many things on electronic format of the data. Case report form, he started talking on that, but that was entirely the paper format he was talking. But that same paper format will be uploading into the electronic database. We call it as ECRF. That will depend upon every sponsor to sponsor. Some sponsors use Oracle Clinical, ECRF platform. Some use web-based web-based clinical platforms where we can just download. But everywhere, every employee who's using that at the site premises also will be having their own access. Who should not be used another one. I cannot use a principal investigator access if I am a CRC. You know, like that is a theft, because the window just looks similar for everyone, but the access of few of the options would be given only for the investigated purpose or a CRA purpose or a CRC purpose. Every person has their own eligibility credentials to go into that, entering the electronic format of the data. So that's the importance, and overall I want to say that investigator, co-investigator has the same exposure to join into the clinical trials. So I would like to make you to get started into the principal investigator journey. So first thing what you need is a technical proposal. What is a technical proposal? So prepare a technical proposal by any collaborations you want. If you want to have your own research content to be developed, you have a good guidance to develop on your role. So I was talking about what are all the theses were going out. Nobody is utilizing them. Why don't you make a part of it, go into the clinical trial. If already you had patents in that particular research, you can approach them, you know, what they're doing the clinical trials, and you can engage with them to take up as an investigator lead. You can continue that. That's one option you have. And this technical proposal write-up is also the collaboration of presentations. So identify the need of sub-recipient agreements, determine whether so the first step is technical proposal I was talking about. The first, let's start the journey of the investigator. That is what I'm talking about. And I would like you to take how to write up a technical proposal. Either for using your postgraduate research thesis or a graduate thesis, you can also extend this, or getting into the own investigational initiated clinical trial is also one point. So first you need to identify what are the collaborative parts you can engage with. Connecting to patents, connecting to the sponsors of already published drug. You just need to first had a browse on all the things, and then you need to start working on this. So next is determine whether on or off campus space you are building to this clinical trial, assign to a principal investigator if needed. If you are having a degree to perform in clinical, PI, you can go. But if not, you can approach an investigator who's already working, and you can be a part of it, like a co-investigator. You know, co-investigator doesn't need to be only graduated or MBBS graduated. You can be any person who can have complete knowledge on developing that clinical trial drug. So you can take a help of the investigator. That one option takes responsibility for keeping up the CVs, biocheck updates, so everything. So if you are writing up a protocol, you should make sure every person in your team should have a CV that should be updated everywhere. Whenever you go to a conference, whenever you had another certification program, that should be continuously updated. As an investigator, definitely every 6 months, investigated profile should be updated. You know, we have PDSURs, annual submission reports for safety as well. Same such there, we will be submitting the resumes of the investigator who took care of the patient during the emergency time. So there again, they need to definitely see the investigator CV that will be updated. That is the importance of it. And ensure that procedures used are consistent and sound research designs and do not unnecessarily expose subjects to risk, harm.
So this is another point to be considered, and design should be such a way that should not have an entire effect to the ratio of patients to be into SAEs. So I think Gaurinath sir, when he was talking about the safety reporting mechanisms and protocol, like how we expect, what we do, how do we perform, in the protocol itself, we have two different types of serious adverse events, One is expected, one is non-expected. So expected safety adverse events are something which is already written in the protocol, and the sponsor get to know that information by the preclinical trial of phase 1 or phase 2 when he was in phase 3. Or if he is in phase 1, he'll get to use the information in preclinical trials. Okay, so those are expected, and the treatment also would be written clearly on what is the event, how they need to treat, how they need to notify, if notified, what time they should be reached out. But the things, if that comes out of unexpected, he was talking about another syndrome which is unexpected. That is not written in the protocol, but still that should be reported. Every adverse event, every serious adverse event, whether it's expected or non-expected, it should be written clearly in the electronic database system along with the paper format of the documents. That is the protocol of the clinical trial, like updating that now and then. For every patient, we have a portal in electronic database management system where AE would be written, SAE would be written for every visit, Likewise, how you take up your OPs. You administer a drug, you ask the patient to come back again. 3 days or 5 days observation period you give, right? So when you come back, ask the patient come back again, you say that something, if they raise an allergy or any symptom comes, okay, you say that stop taking the drug. I will be advising you a new drug. Same such, we have a tenure to be returned to the patient as well. So every visit they have AE and SAE to be reported, but every SAE, if it's a drug, it should be reported to the regulatory as per Indian guidelines within 24 hours. And for devices, we have 48 hours. And that's for India, but internationally we have changes, and some have 42 hours also for some countries. SAE to be reported. But for India, we need to make sure that once SAE is heard, a death case is heard by a doctor, an investigator, he need to report first to ethics committee, sponsor, and the regulatory body also quickly. We have a written format which will be already printed and given by the sponsor to the site when there was a site initiation visit happened. So every sponsor, when the site is about to open for a clinical trial, they'll be bringing a bulk of clinical trial documents and dumping them at the site. Among such, one is site safety report update. Second one is patient leaflets, informed consent form, patient diaries we have. So there will be mandatory. And one thing over here, every document of the informed consent where the patient needs to join will be written in a local language also. Why should that be? Can anybody answer? Yes. So as you have some template or a paper which already being given in the drug during the package of it, like how will notify whether the events, SAEs, how to take a drug, when to administer, how many dosage, it will be written precautionary steps, right? So same like we have informed consent form also written clearly that what is the drug we are administering, how many times the patient should come, what are the tests we are going to perform, what is the result the patient would be getting ultimately after taking the drug, will be written clearly in the informed consent form in local language also. Okay, so there everybody will understand the importance of the drug and they'll voluntarily sign it. That is the first motto. So we cannot make sure patient to stand and write and give a signature on the English paper itself. We need to take a thumb impression of the patient in the local language. That is a second security for the sponsor to say that all my patients who are enrolled in this clinical trial are volunteers. Nobody is being pushed or forced to join a clinical trial. Or we are not compensating, or we are advertising, or we are paying the patients to come in to join in the clinical trial. Neither a doctor does. They don't have rights to do that. So as he was talking about saying that I am not taking a new responsibility or not taking up something extra burden of it. It's something that I sit daily and I know I get to understand what is the patient status and I'll recruit them into the clinical trial what I have. That goes parallelly. That was his saying. He was concluding it, right? So that's the thing. And next goes with proposal budget. So how do we set up the budget? from the sponsor end, of as an investigator, how will you keep up your own budget? If it's an investigator-initiated clinical trial, you would be the entire person taking up the budget into your hands, right? So right from the, every part of the documentation, every part of the lab reports, patient travel, food, what he's saying that the sponsor would be giving 300 rupees, for the patient to travel. Just like that, everything the investigator will be taking care of it. That's where the importance of collaboratives comes, right? So you are a person who would be selected for feasibility because you have what they say like handwork, the doctors, they usually call it as hastavaku antaru kada, right? So depending upon that, the patient come to them because of his name or a fame or his practice that he had done, right? So same way, even the investigators will be selected by the sponsors and the budget will be given. I'll get to show clearly hands-on experience on how to write the feasibility, how we as will be selected as an investigator soon. So with respect to the protocol budget, I would like to take you detail on how it is feasible, how the facilities, administrative cost would be, how the research grant is being approved. Just have a look at it. So prepares or directly supervises the preparation of the budget and this justification, selects the appropriate facilities or the administrative which is already there in academic, they can utilize it or negotiate it, okay, under guidance of OGCA. The dean's office, we can go with take it. If approved, makes his facilities and administrative cost waivers, request the department or the deans to forward this request to the vice chancellor for the research engagement and final approval. You do this usually, right? For any research to go into the CTRA, a postgraduate does this usually. Right. So extending to that, I would like to add more. Request matching funds from the university officials or identify in-kind collaborations, contributions for appropriate sources when necessary. This is a key point where you can extend your funds, get into the more part of the clinical research. The more you spend the budget, like developing marketing or giving a marketing advertisements for the patients to engage into the clinical trial, you can extend the budget and you can get it to the more scale of recruiting the patients quickly. Or you can put an effort back on the funds, like platforms that I said, the patient recruitment softwares, keep it on your own hospital premises and extend it. Next is propose cost sharing through the contributed efforts or other approved mechanisms and seek approvals from appropriated university officials. So identify the financial resources first and direct that support to the research. That is on time, and this is just in time in accordance with the sponsor's requirements. So all is that you can do and prolong with the entire thing. What I'm talking is with the sponsor's requirement is there, you can proceed working on all the plans. That is one I want to highlight over here. So next is what regulatory requirements do you have? You are now identified, you are now having a sponsor proposal, you wrote up your technical proposal, you had a budget in your hand. Now what you should do? Now what is the regulatory requirements that I should process? So prepare the appropriate forms, like thing is animal, if you have university human subjects like IRBs or IECs, CUCs, the radiation safety officers, so the officers of the environment, EH and yes, so these are the team can produce you to move more on approvals and which involves the proposals involve of human subjects or live animals if you're planning for preclinical or clinical. This is the thing I was letting you know. Or the recombinant DNA technologies or human blood or body fluid sample type of clinical trials, radioactive materials, hazardous materials, or protected health information. Anything is that you had few regulatory requirements to go ahead and proceed working on this. What is that? What is that you need ultimately is participation agreement prior to conducting sponsored research, discloses all the potentiality significant conflict of the interest situations, and affirms that he or she is not excluded or debarred for receiving federal funds and it's not a student loan. Make sure that you are conducting this entirely on the fund basis or not on the student loan. So in the university, if you want to take up an academic initiated clinical trial all alone, you can approach to the student loans also, developing your own research. But if that comes to from the sponsor's requirement, that will be absolutely great, because he will provide insurance to the loan, right? So this is actually happening outside the country, and how the universities promote academic initiated clinical trials or investigator initiated clinical trials. What is the protocol they follow? I was clear on that. So where should the PI be trained? That's the next step. Getting certified as an investigator is important role in the clinical investigation, qualifications and training of the research staff, implementing SOPs and working with the IRBs is again parallelly should be done, compliance with the protocol. So make sure that you will never go out of the protocol, like we call them as protocol deviations, right? So if we heard here to be more number of protocol deviations, you will be no longer be into the clinical trials. So make sure that you follow the protocol and go according to the protocol without any deviations. That is important. Informed consent. Following the informed consent principle clearly is again understanding the patient, making the patient to understand the local language is also important. You know, when the patient signs the informed consent form, we will be having a video recording also and the audio recording also. And together that should be stored in a CD format with the investigator. Nobody believes that the patient signs in the informed consent form in a paper format. See the backup plan of the clinical trial has. Why should the sponsor protect his data in such a way? Why should he spend so much of budget in each and every part? It's not simple, right? Because he wants to release a quality drug outside the market. That's it. Simple answer. So records, reports, research misconduct, understanding the FDA inspections process. So research misconduct. I've seen one of that in my experience. So one of an investigator is actually in a clinical trial having more than 20 patients. So and the clinical trial was monitored, everything was done, every patient has went to 50 visits. Done. The trial was about to close, Then what I've seen is like one patient at the end, when there is a closeout of a clinical trial happening, again the monitor goes to the site. There comes a picture of a new monitor, new CRA who went to the site, and just before the audit, he was brushing up all the things, helping the investigator to make sure it was perfect to audit prep. Okay, what happened is he then figured out I don't know like what the old CRA worked over there. The new CRA came into the picture saying that one single patient was recruited and that name was reflected to be written to 5 names of the patient. Can that happen? Will that be accepted as per ICGCP? One single patient was recruited and he wrote it as 5 patients were recruited, and he replicated that name with different names or initial changes, something he manipulated it, and the signature also was manipulated. Somehow he kept up his staff members to be written in the audio video consent form. Everything he mug-upped. Dr. Mug-up, as we know, like every patient, the budget will be divided for the sponsor. For the investigator, he's getting money. What happened ultimately? So when there's an audit happened, this CRA went and notified all the things to the CRO. That happened, reflected, the CRO has been intimated the sponsor before the FDA audit had come to that site. What happened is the sponsor himself has initiated an independent auditor. He hired an independent auditor, a QA again, and he inspected that site. He came into the picture before the FDA came in, and he cleared all the mess happened. What he did is he deleted all the 5 profiles. And he said the doctor that this patient profile or this particular site will be not encouraged for another sponsors to participate in the clinical trial. There's a market, there's a society actually for all the sponsors who's in the clinical trial to misconduct, to cut the investigators' practice if they do any misconduct like this. Nobody escapes. That's happened actually. So that's my experience, I've shared it. So thing is that misconduct or the fraud or recruitment status low. So everything is the responsibility of the investigator. If we follow the protocol, if we get quality certifications in a hand, good team, good staff, everything works well, and you would be like an active person in a clinical trial. And that person will be invited. I've been through once DCGI office for safety reporting updated guidelines. You know, like many number of sponsors were invited during the time. It was like when 2016 I've been invited for DCGI office. So there, there's safety reporting events that sponsors were trying to let us understand the new guidelines they had come. They made changes, and they were talking about many drugs and many events they had occurred. That comes into the picture, and that is the time where sponsors express their own original experiences, how they met with the investigators, how much data, how much budget they spend on different investigators, how much they lost that has happened. That budget statistics also should be reported to the regulatory body. You know, like every 3 to 4 years, they have a review meeting committees to be organized, and they call them, they'll invite, and they'll do it. Nobody can escape it. You know, it happens. It cannot be identified now and then, but definitely at some other day it will be identified by the regulatory body. That's what my main point is. So next is like, what is the importance of good clinical practice? We had already informed what is the importance of good documentation practice actually. So I just want you to rush up with this, as this been already discussed by a few of our guests. So I would like to take you only into the do's and don'ts process of it. Okay, so what is the do's and don'ts as a documentation storage we need to do in the clinical trials? So let me first check one of the do that we will do is check that you had a correct chart before you begin writing. Informed consent is a chart written clearly, or the visit report is a chart written clearly, something like the vital signs, the BMI, the age, what is the date, time, when the patient is coming here to take a drug, when he reported to the laboratory to give the sample, everything should be written clearly. That is the first do. Make sure your documentation reflects your professional capabilities, write legibility, chart the time you administered on injection or administration route, and the patient responses have been collected or not. Record each phone call you make. This is important. So as an investigator, you'll be talking to a number of patients. So maybe like during your OP, you may request the patient to take up this clinical trial. You refer them. The patient just listens, say yes or no, and he'll go back to his place. And then what again the principal investigator need to do? He need to give a call, definitely. So what happens then? He should record the call. Even that should be documented. That is really important for a sponsor, how many motivations of the patient he did. The target he gives during the feasibility needs to match it accordingly. So that's the point. And don'ts, coming to don'ts, what are the main don'ts is, don't alert a subject record, don't use shorthand or abbreviations that aren't widely accepted. So I know like every documentation definitely needs a medical code. What is the medical code that you give for vomitings? Simple. Or a pain, what do you give a medical code for pain? You write it as pain. There's a pain on your upper joint. Symptomatic. See, thing is that when you're writing up something, you're writing up a document of a patient, writing in a medical code format is important. You know, we have MEDRA coded to be written, and that is a coding dictionary written inside this informed consent form. That is again important. So last but not the least, I would like to just brush up to have a glance of these two ISA-GCP parts of it. ISA-GCP E6 1.51 source data, ISA-E6 1.52 source documentation. So this is really important for you to take a part, have a look at it because we already gave in the working kit about the ISA-GCP book. So how to get certified? Finally, I am about to close my session, so we feel happy. What is that, like PI course syllabus we do? I think by now you are aware of what are all the domains we're talking about. We are talking about safety, we are talking about documentation, we are talking about data, we are talking about what medical coding we talked about, regulatory we talked about, right? So what is that? Like first thing, what are the certifications we have? So through CAVAXIA we have investigator training program running on. So this is an accredited training program actually which covers you internationally. When you go for your master's program, you can use this with 17.5 CME credits. Okay, so next is you'll be getting principal investigator toolkit definitely. So how to effectively use this course. Internally, you'll be going into the syllabus of what are the roles, checklines, GCP guidelines, FDA 1572 form 1 and 2. These two actually help you to apply you as a principal investigator for clinical trials. So this will be also clearly discussed with you, and how to initiate investigator clinical trials along with investigator initiated multi-center clinical trials. That is a second promotionary step you would be doing if you are into the PI. And what is the product storage and dispensing techniques. So you cannot just leave or misspelled. So when I was actually giving a lecture, one of my pharmacy student actually gave me an asking me question. What do the patients do after taking the drug back to home? If they misused or just misusing the drug, what do they do? So what I said is like I said that patient will be getting back that drug to me. Then what should you do after taking up the drug? You will be returning back to the sponsor, he asked me. I said, yes, we don't return it to the sponsor, but we will keep it in our premises, document everything that there's a misdose, usage of the drug. So I had this usage and this being used, because I cannot skip without documenting that. Because when the patient lab reports or the lab sample is been isolated, we don't see the perfect result that is expected. So, for example, if I take an oncology clinical trial, I have a tumor size of more than 3 centimeters. Other patient is having more than 5 centimeters. Both of them had been signed informed consent form together in a clinical trial. So that particular patient took up entirely dosage and its size of tumor was being reduced to 3, and I missed up few drugs, okay, during the time, and my size was still there. I cannot, as a principal investigator, I cannot skip up or writing up all those things, right? Then what should the drug be? Where should the drug go? We cannot send it directly to the sponsor as per the ICH GCP guidelines. We have few custom protocols for the drug to come to the site itself. We cannot discard it directly into the dustbin. What should we do? So there's another responsibility for investigator to have a vendor who is having the dispensing vendor, the bioavailability dispensing vendor, they will take care of the drug, because this drug is not now still in the market. It should be carefully handled on. So they take up, they will dispense the drug with all the protocols they have, and they'll bring that particular information that this drug is dispensed so much this time and this date, and that will be submitted back to the sponsor. Clear? So that is important, and that type of training also will be clear in this program. Investigator product availability. So, and next comes with the protocol, trial design, how would you randomize a patient, and what type of phases we go, institutional board reviews, what are the guidelines, everything will be clear in this training program. And how to fill in IND and NDA application process is also clear, will be clear in the training program. Next is documentation and informed consent documentation part, how to store the patient documents, like how to manage the queries resolved. Like if you enter a wrong thing in the electronic management system, the sponsor will from another country can arise a query for you. Quickly you need to respond as an investigator. How will you do that? So I already spoke talking about commercially e-signature compliance of the investigator. So everything this now and then will be clear, and also how to report an adverse event, how to make sure that the audit, your site is audit prepared, or the site visit prepared. Everything will be clear. The syllabus is designed in such a way that you will be having hands-on training experience with the investigator training. And patient safety, recruitment, compliance also will be clear. How I will be giving you few tips on how you would help to recruit the patients. That is also important. So this is my last slide. I would like to let you know that this entire PI course registration, right from the courses we are taking up, we are offering this course with internship as well. So I just want to brush this up. If at all possible, if you can be 1 minute patient to me, I can help you to learn one thing quickly. So number of courses will be covered in this PI training program is pharmacovigilance, database management, clinical SAS, clinical medical coding, medical writing, regulatory affairs, clinical research associate, principal investigator, narrative writing as well. So these are the few courses we'll be entirely covering in this chapter, and the internship support also would be given, turning on to leading principal investigator in the reputed clinical research organizations, or you'll be directly tied up with the sponsors of us we have. So final practice work will be also given. So one who wants to extend that internship, we would be also supporting for practice work in any country you want. We had already the team to move on with the investigators. So abroad is more accepting the certified investigators actually. So we push you to that opportunities as well. And next is like, we help you to entirely develop. If you want to develop your own hospital site, we develop you with the resource team. So when I was talking actually with few of the investigators, only thing that was lagging behind is, I am so much interested in the clinical trials, but I am not able to put up my staff team properly trained, that is lagging me to go into more and more, accepting more and more responsibilities, right? So if we have a good staff support, you as an investigator can quickly launch the project, give a result quickly to the sponsor. So that is how we support. We help you to develop an entire site. We give you project, you give you training, we give your staff training, and we entirely make your site ready for clinical trial. And the support with the placements also would be given. So if not a principal investigator, we help you to move on with the other domains of placements as well. So this is actually course cost we charge. We go directly to the hospitals and we train the doctors, and we charge like every doctor like 1,20,000 for this course, which is actually on service motto. But with respect to Narayana College, group of colleges, we're about to bring this course for 40K only. So I make sure that you are understanding the importance of principal investigator career in your very first step you are in. This is a smarter decision you will be taking. Moving ahead, you would be extending your relationship with the industry field of the clinical research, expand your field, what not. Like apart from investigator, you can try many other fields in this as well. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your patience. I think I had an activity, but the time is up. If you permit, I would like to take, or else we'll have another day. Yes, sir. So this package is actually we designed to get into the training, to go into the internship near the investigator. They'll be as a co-PI. The internship offer letter will be also given as the designee of the co-PI, and then they'll be moving into the placements. Definitely. So salary in the sense like we had three options, as I said, like they can be under academic initiated clinical trials, or they can be having their own hospital. They can connect back to the internal clinical research department if it's a branded hospital. So they have their own department. They can take up a clinical trial for them. And third one is we move with the sponsor based principal investigator selections. Sir? This is a workshop actually. So engaging we had given hands-on practice with ICGCP guidelines. We had engaged them with site quality checking, like audit preparations. Yes, sir. Educating, it's a platform of educating more.
So training for final.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, done, sir. So shall we go with the feasibility activity? Yes, it's 4 o'clock, sir. Yes. Okay, sir. Thank you. you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Karishma. You want to hand out the certificates to them? The interns, who are the interns that are there? Only both of you all are there. No, all of them are there. You had something for them, right? You can come down over here, the interns.
Okay, so we'll do that. So we request all the 10 students to come over, and we have few appreciation gifts as well. As we heard that you are the toppers of the college and encouraged to go ahead more on in initiation of the clinical trials. So we want to move ahead with the support of this.
Sponsored by the Alumni Association.
Yes.
So I think Alumni Association is a round of applause.
Certificates. So I would like to call Praveen Kumar. Praveen Kumar. Praveen Kumar. Is not there, okay. Yes, Faitha, Faith Bulla. Yep. మీరు పిలుస్తారా?
Dr. Chandrababu, Professor of Medicine, Narayana Medical College, Nellore. It is a good session on Principal Investigator Workshop. It is a good educative program as well as career program for UGs and other graduates. So it is quite interesting and many topics are covered in detail, especially the people from SCG and Dr. Pulmonology Gaurinath has given lecture on clinical trials, how to investigate, what are the protocols, what are the side effects if comes, what are the adverse events. So it is quite useful to all the people for conducting the clinical trials. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for organizers. Thank you. I wish many more this type of workshop may be useful to the other graduates, and also you can approach Narayana Medical College to conduct same thing, so that you can sensitize the undergraduates and the postgraduates who are doing clinical research papers. Thank you very much.
Like from the student side, no, it's not mandatory. Like okay, okay. My name is Vijay. I'm currently an intern in Narayana Dental College. At first, I had no idea about any research and no interest also. After this 3-day workshop session, I had gained a bit of the knowledge, and I'm trying to utilize the information provided by this workshop to utilize it somewhere in my career. That's it. Okay. No need to feel shy. I mean, it's a better opportunity for you guys to express yourselves. Okay, we'll go with the last bench.
Hi, my name is Rahim, Community PG. This 3-day workshop provides a lot of knowledge regarding what is the ways after the BDS, what might be the chances to get into enter. CTI, clinical registration, clinical research is a very good choice for entering completion of your course. And we have lots of ways are there regarding pharmacovigilance and something else like that. The staff provided a lot of knowledge. General medicine sir is there, so that sir, I like that.
Anything you wanted to explain on it? Anything you wanted to explain on what did you understand on the guest lecture?
Regarding clinical research, sir, that medical in medical field there is a lot of scope for clinical research. Whatever the drugs may be the regarding in our dentistry also we have a lot of issues regarding surgery, endodontics, after that that's all things.
So which will be your most favorite domain? In which part? I mean, if you want to start a research, which part you want to do?
In drugs only, sir. In drugs only. That's fine. That will be welcome.
Thanks. Yeah. So anyone from the girl side? All the boys are talking so far.
just a brief on the guest lecturers.
Bhargavi. First of all, I would like to thank our principal sir and CAVAXIA Academy for providing us this knowledge. And for first 2 days online session, we are not unable to understand, but today we are very much satisfied with this live interactive section, and we came to know about principal investigator in detailed manner. And thank you.
So mostly in the online part of seminars, there'll be a difference between online part and physical part. But when it comes to online, it will be a lot of content sharing topics to you. Okay, so when it comes to offline, a lot of uh, experienced people coming over here. That can be most useful for you. Is anything from you guys? I mean, any next one